Live from KSAT 12, the 6 o'clock news starts right now.
A murder investigation now into the 5-hour mark. Deputies trying to find the suspects who killed a man in West Bexar County.
Investigators working 2 scenes in that case tonight. One, a heavily wooded area, the other near Southwest ISD. Our John Paul Barajas reports deputies have some clues in this case.
Bexar County Sheriff's deputies do have some leads in this murder investigation thanks to surveillance video from this area where the suspects left their car, which was nearby that red and white car. We're off of Old Pearsall Road and Edwards Road, right next to several Southwest ISD campuses. Right now it is unclear if that vehicle belonged to the suspects, but what we do know is that those 2 suspects are on the run. Investigators say this all began about 10 miles away near Highway 90 and Montgomery Road around 1 this afternoon. When deputies arrived, they found a man dead in a car in a heavily wooded area nearby.
We believe the victim in the car, a male believed to be possibly in his 40s or 50s, was in a dark-colored sedan, and he was shot at least once further up the block. His vehicle then began to roll into that wooded area where it embedded itself probably 100 yards into that wooded area.
Witnesses told deputies they saw 2 suspects run into the wooded area and shoot into the car after deputies believed the man was already unresponsive. Since the suspects ended up here by the district, several of the campuses were placed on secure mode, but students were released about 2 hours ago. This is still an active investigation, and we'll bring you the latest tonight on the Night Beat. John Paul Barajas, KSAT 12 News.
More vehicle checkpoints to come across Texas. That's according to Governor Greg Abbott. The announcement made this afternoon during his visit to Eagle Pass and comes days after dozens of migrants died in a smuggling attempt here in San Antonio. He says the job of authorities on the border is to secure its communities and surprise the cartel operations that lead these smuggling attempts. Alicia Barrera is in Eagle Pass as well, where large groups of migrants continue to make their way through, defying the efforts of the governor's Operation Lone Star.
Even with a heavy military presence along the Eagle Pass border, this group of undocumented immigrants crossed the Rio Grande. According to Eagle Pass Chief of Police Federico Garza, this has once again become an increasingly common sight in the last month, and his team is overwhelmed.
Police agencies have big challenges coming through, not only from illegal immigration, active shooters, and everything else that come with it. So we're really being stretched too thin. Border
Patrol Del Rio sector reports a total of 2,915 apprehensions over the weekend, which is where additional troopers will arrive to the border under orders of Governor Greg Abbott.
The Texas Department of Public Safety is creating 2 strike teams to detect, deter, and apprehend unlawful crossings of illegal immigrants.
And in an effort to prevent the death of migrants at the hands of smugglers, Texas could soon see new DPS vehicle checkpoints to identify clone trucks like the one in San Antonio, where dozens of migrants were found dead.
But I can assure you our troopers will be able to identify whether it's legitimate or not and take action at that point in time. That's a deterrent.
Garza's hope is that international bridges and commerce won't be affected once again.
We can't pay any higher prices than what we're doing right now. We got to bring those things down, and we got to allow commerce to come through and make business in the United States.
All right, so what you're looking at right now is a live look at undocumented immigrants literally walking over from Piedras Negras to Eagle Pass. Right now we see about 4 or 5 undocumented immigrants from where I'm standing. They're standing kind of in the middle right now. I'm not sure exactly what you're seeing. I'll try to explain as best. They're hanging on to a pillar, but this is exactly the issue that the chief of police for Eagle Pass was talking about. The governor, DPS, they're overwhelmed. There you see one of them actually trying to defy the current of the Rio Grande and trying to make it over to the U.S. These are live images that you're watching. Again, this group coming from Piedras Negras trying to swim their way over to Eagle Pass. On this side, on the Texas side, you have at least 2-3 Texas military waiting for them over here. And you have, the concertina wire that Texas military department has been placing throughout the border. We're talking miles, but that's not stopping this group earlier. I mean, you saw those images at the beginning of the story. That was around 2 p.m. today, and really that group has been standing by. So this is why military also on the Texas side standing by to see what happens. And I have lost sight of them. You do see Texas military standing by. Steve, I'll send it back to you.
Yeah, Alicia, stay with me for a second because I want to talk to you about what we're watching live play out here. I mean, these are people who obviously aren't trying to evade authorities. I mean, they just want to get to the other side and try to ask for amnesty, right? I mean, they're trying to just cross the river. They don't care if the concertina wire is there or Operation Lone Star authorities are there. They want to give themselves up to authorities. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, so a couple of Yes, that is correct. A couple of feet from where we're standing is actually where Texas military will walk over these undocumented immigrants to hand them over to Border Patrol for them to be processed. And then that's when they can actually, they, meaning these migrants, are able to plead their case. Now, of course, there are cases where they do make it around this particular area and they do make a run for it. They don't want to turn themselves in. And then that's when you see the issue of these stash houses. I spoke to the chief and he says stash houses here in Eagle Pass are a big issue. They are overwhelmed, but you have both sides. In this case, what we're seeing is they're trying to swim over to Eagle Pass. And yes, what it looks like right now is that they will turn themselves over to authority. And right now we see the current, I mean, this is deceiving. In some parts, it looks calm, but that undertow could sweep them away at any time, Steve.
Well, and that's what I was noticing too, is they were clinging onto a pillar for the bridge there, for the international bridge there at one point, and then making a quick swim for it. And you pointed out just days ago about how deceiving the Rio Grande is. And I've been down there myself where it can be shallow in some places, then it just drops off.
Absolutely, and this is what we're keeping an eye on anytime we come over here. These this Rio Grande area, the water crossing is really low. Already we hear one of the boats for Border Patrol nearby. So more activity anytime you see these groups trying to move their way through. The water hits them at waist level. I'm not sure if you're able to see that from where we're standing. I can make a better idea of that, but again, it's unclear what can happen at any moment. And this is the risk that these people take. And, you know, sometimes there's kids involved. In this case, we don't see any children, young people, yes, young men, but thankfully at this point, no children.
And not only the strength of the water could be deceiving in this scenario, but maybe the entire scene that people are watching play out might be deceiving because it looks so calm. As we've talked about, this is a group coming over, trying, of course, their best, as you said, to defy that current, but they're right there in front of authorities. It looks as though they plan to present themselves to authorities. They know that they are going to be caught on the other side. Alicia, you've spent a lot of time in recent weeks there on the border. I know that you have met with migrants who were taken to places like the Catholic Charities Respite Center in McAllen, sharing with you their stories about why they've fled their countries to try to make it into the U.S. Do you have any idea in a scenario like this where people are crossing with the intent to turn themselves over to authorities? What are the next steps for them? What will likely happen once they are with Customs and Border Protection?
The first thing, they're going to be processed. They have this database that has expanded over the years. So if they have tried to seek asylum in previous years, if their family member over here in the States have wanted to request them to come over in a legal route, all of that can help authorities process them in a faster way. Usually what we see is once they turn themselves over, Border Patrol is really quick to tell them to take off any shoelaces, any belts that they may have on them, just anything that could serve as a weapon. All that's put into a Ziploc bag. Usually that's turned over to them once they're let go, once they've been processed in that legal route through Border Patrol. And then comes, you know, maybe some days of waiting. Right now it's unclear how much time it really takes for this processing through Border Patrol to work, because then we do hear that they're overwhelmed at many of these centers, right? And then after that is when they're able to be released to organizations like Catholic Charities, which is usually when they get their first chance to finally let their family members know that they've made it over to the United States in a safe manner. But when I talk to them, I ask them why. And some do mention the violence, a lot of them do, but some moms, dads too, their basic need is to be able to feed their children. So again, I was trying to keep an eye out to see if we see any little ones. Usually they'll just, carry them. Fortunately, that's not the case with this group. Another thing that I want to point out, where we're standing is where Texas Military Department is as well. To my right, not very far, that's where Border Patrol is. So these groups know exactly where to turn themselves in. They didn't do a straight shot like they could have. They kind of moved diagonally to the right. And again, that's to be able to turn themselves over to Border Patrol. You're not able to see that station from where we're standing because of the high brush, but it's just past that bridge of railroad tracks to my right.
Yeah, and this is something that we see, when you talk to people in Eagle Pass and Del Rio and small communities like that, it's something that they see every day. What we just showed you live right here during the 6 o'clock news, certainly the human face of what is happening right along our border on live television. Alicia Barrera, appreciate your time, and as we see a Border Patrol van pull up behind you. Thank you, Alicia.
And of course, what we just saw play out live right behind our crew there in Eagle Pass, a very different situation than what we've been covering that we saw play out here in San Antonio on Monday with the discovery of dozens of people dead inside of the back of a tractor trailer. We're getting more information about the victims in that deadly migrant tragedy. That discovery made on Monday here in San Antonio. 48 were found dead at that scene. 3 others died at Baptist Hospital. 1 died at Texas Vista Medical Center. And another person died at Christus Westover Hills. We're going to continue updating these numbers as new information comes in. Those updates available, of course, anytime at KSAT.com, on the KSAT News app, and in our newscasts right here. Now let's move on to the investigation into who's responsible for those 53 people dead. The name of the suspected driver and his picture released by Mexican officials this afternoon. Camelia Juarez is live at Baptist Hospital, where several survivors are now being treated. Camelia, what have we learned?
Steve, Myra, now we know who officials say was driving the truck and how the truck got here. And a lot of that information comes from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection cameras. Now, the Mexican officials identified the suspected driver as Homero Zamorano. He has a lengthy criminal history. Zamorano has a federal hearing on human smuggling charges tomorrow afternoon. Officials in Mexico believe the 18-wheeler first entered in Laredo, then CBP cameras caught it passing the Encinal and Catula checkpoint. The migrants were in the back for over 2 hours before ending up on Quintana Road. The owner of King Auto Parts saw the truck right behind his salvage yard. Marvin Haas says there is a lot of illegal activity on that road, but this was unusual.
It is a trucking company, so we normally see a lot of 18-wheelers going in there, but again, not enclosed trailers, always against for dump, base, or rock, or something like that.
And the 2 other suspects, Juan Bilbo and Juan Mendez, their names are registered on the suspected 18-wheeler. They are Mexican nationals, according to Mexican officials, and they are facing unrelated firearm charges. Camelia Juarez, KSAT 12 News.
Thank you, Camelia. The federal government taking the lead in this investigation, and we have not heard about the plan for the migrants who survived that tractor-trailer nightmare. Courtney Friedman found out what resources will be available to them if they remain here in San Antonio for any amount of time.
11 people still fighting to recover from this horrifying botched human smuggling situation. Homeland Security is overseeing the details, so the survivors' future is unclear.
I think it's horrific. It says something about the promise of what we have in this country, that people were willing to risk that to come here.
Bill Neely is the executive director of Sacred.org, a comprehensive online directory of human services in the San Antonio area.
Broadly, health, food, goods, services, legal assistance, housing. So we have about 7,500 programs or so that are in the system from more than 2,000 agencies around Greater San Antonio.
So you just go to sacrd.org, and at the top you can see all of these types of services, and you can scroll through the help that you can get. This one says citizenship and immigration. I'm told the people who use this the most are caseworkers and other nonprofits.
At a press conference Tuesday, Mayor Ron Nirenberg mentioned Sacred multiple times when answering questions about the migrants.
On Sacred, you can find several refugee services and migrant aid organizations that can help to try to cut through some of the red tape of that legal process. Migrants will find a lot of assistance with finding assistance with groceries, finding people that are from their community that can help them form support groups.
Neely knows it's up in the air if the migrants will remain in San Antonio for any extended period of time, but he wants them and their caseworkers to know if they do, there's help available. Courtney Friedman, KSAT 12 News.
By the way, the mayor bringing up the Sacred site on our KSAT Q&A yesterday. TransGuide right now, I-10 at Woodstone. You can see a stalled vehicle off to the right, slowing things down on this Wednesday afternoon.
Let's take another look outside with live cam. The rain has cleared for most of us. Temperatures a little bit cooler, and we'll take it. Adam Caskey's going to have your Weather Authority forecast coming up in a bit.
All right, talking weather, and the heat is back.
It's going to crank up a bit more into the upcoming holiday weekend as we get into the Sunday and especially 4th of July, back near 100. This is that 10 to 20% we've been talking about. Take a look at the radar. We did have a few showers along the coastal plain earlier. Now it's just north of Del Rio, outside of Brackettville, not far from Laughlin Air Force Base, but that's all we have to speak of across our area at the moment. Outflow boundary, that green line, it's a nice puff of a bit of a cooler breeze that's moving in from the thunderstorms that have since dissipated, that were off to the east of us. So those of you, Gonzales, Nixon, Smiley, even toward Lavernia and Seguin, you'll have that gentle, cool breeze from that outflow. But we're watching this very unorganized cluster of showers and thunderstorms over the Gulf. Same thing we've been watching all week, still at a 40% chance of developing into a tropical depression. Even if it does get the title of tropical depression, it's not going to change the impacts. It's just going to be a big swirl of rain that's most likely going to stay far east of San Antonio. From Gonzales to Cuero, maybe even Goliad, Victoria, down to Corpus Christi and eastward, that's where we're likely to have the moisture and the rainfall from this basically swirl of rain, up to 5 inches along parts of the Gulf Coast between Matagorda Bay and Houston. 97, that was our high temperature today, the average being 93 degrees. But this morning we were actually below average. You look at the readings now, mostly well into the 90s. Del Rio is an exception at 89, some rain-cooled air in the area there. 95 Port SA, 94 in Bulverde, and Bandera now at 95. Tomorrow, we'll start the day not bad at 73 degrees, partly cloudy, then 94, so mid-90s tomorrow, 20% chance of a stray, brief, highly isolated afternoon shower, well into the 90s for the majority of our area, but I think most of us will be just under triple digits and just under 100 degrees. That highly isolated 20% chance exists every afternoon all the way through Saturday, and then nothing but sunshine Sunday, Monday, 4th of July, and thereafter it's more of what we've been accustomed to.
All right, thank you, Adam.
All right, DeJounte hitting to exit, Greg.
Yes, he is. And, if you take a look at this, at 25 years in age, what he was able to accomplish this past season, his trade value would never be higher. And today, the Spurs exercise that when we come back here. The shocking development that just broke this afternoon, and the Spurs' #1 draft pick this year traded. Not yet. Sidelined. DeJounte Murray, who came to the Spurs in 2016 as the team's 29th overall pick in the first round and blossomed into an all-star guard in just 5 seasons, has been traded to the Atlanta Hawks for 3 first-round draft picks and a swap of 1 first-round pick and for Danilo Gallinari. This is arguably the boldest move in team history, since you normally build a team around an all-star rather than trading. But it will be just 2 years from now when Murray will be in line for a max deal for $40 million a season. But his trade worthiness will probably never be higher at this moment in his career at just 25 years of age. Here's a look at the trade trade overall. The Spurs will receive a first-round pick via the Hornets in 2023, 2025, and 2026 will be a swap of the first-round pick, and again in 2027 a first-round pick from Atlanta, and of course for Danilo Gallinari. Now, the Hawks will receive, obviously, DeJounte Murray. Gallinari's contract is only partially guaranteed for this coming season, but can be bought out today by the Spurs for $5 million. If not, the contract becomes fully guaranteed at $21.5 million. A setback right out of the gate for the Spurs' top draft pick, Jeremy Sohan out of Baylor. He will not be able to practice with his new teammates this week after being placed in the NBA's health and safety protocols. That's rough, since the Spurs are set to practice 4 times this week before heading to Las Vegas to tip off the Summer League on Friday, July 8th. There's still a question whether or not he will suit up, even if he is cleared to return, since he hasn't chanced to work out. His teammates are sympathetic to his situation after the Spurs made Sohan the number 9 overall pick, especially since the 3 draft picks were together all weekend long and only one tested positive for COVID.
That's how he was when we first got here. Like, we were just hanging out all the time, and then, he got it, but speedy recovery. It's going to be okay.
Have you texted with him, talked to him?
Oh, yeah, I have. Yeah, he asked me how practice has been going. I've been telling him, just to keep him in the loop. Yeah. That's, you got to keep my boy in the loop.
I think he's a really smart guy. He'll be able to figure out everything. But it's tough because this is the time where everyone's learning, getting all the concepts down. But like I said, he's a smart guy. I think he'll be able to figure it out pretty quickly.
The Spurs Summer League team that also features a Spurs third draft pick and number 25 overall, Blake Wesley out of Notre Dame, held their first workout today to get ready for their Summer League games that tip off 1 week from this Friday in Las Vegas. And while Spurs head coach Greg Popovich was there, it will be assistant Mitch Johnson who will coach the team in Vegas.
I think that in general it's the same every year, right? It's enthusiasm, it's excitement. These kids want to prove whether they can, should be at this level or that, justify why they were drafted. But I think Blake is obviously a very dynamic driver, very athletic. His speed stands out when you watch him. And I think Malachi has a little bit of a throwback game in terms of kind of crafty, uses some change of speed, finds some spots, ways to score. So I think they both have knacks and skill sets that will help us.
And here's a look at that Summer League schedule, by the way. It begins on July the 8th. That's a week from this Friday against the Cavaliers, and wraps up. Maybe we see DeJounte on July the 14th in Las Vegas. What a comeback by the San Antonio FC last night against Tulsa to hang on to their number 1 spot in the Western Conference. And doing so, I had to undergo almost an hour lightning delay due to weather last night, not kicking off on the pitch at Toyota Field until 8:50, and then down by 1-0 at halftime after Tulsa had scored in the 36th minute. But back-to-back goals in 70 seconds lifted SAFC to victory. The first one came in the 55th minute from Ignacio Bailoni, his second in the last 4 matches, and Samuel Adeniran was able to follow in the 57th minute for the fastest pair of goals in club history and the 2-1 victory. Wow, that is a strong comeback in soccer, let me tell you.
Back to DeJounte.
Yeah.
That trade, the draft picks make sense now of who they drafted.
Exactly.
So many guards. It makes
now
sense.
It all kind of gels because obviously they were waiting for one more deal to make it happen, and it had to happen today.
Yeah. Thanks, Greg.
All right, still to come here at 6 o'clock, we are talking guns in America. It is a brand new KSAT Explains. Some interesting perspectives here. Check it out next. In the weeks following the shooting at Robb Elementary in Uvalde, so many people have been searching for solutions, or at the very least, hoping that things will change to prevent yet another mass shooting.
It's become a familiar refrain. Focus on stricter gun laws and more access to mental health services.
For this episode of KSAT Explains, we wanted you to hear not from politicians, but from people who know these issues well. People who are right here in San Antonio.
I'm still angry.
This is Dr. Ronald Stewart.
I'm the chair of the Department of Surgery at UT Health San Antonio.
And a trauma surgeon at University Hospital, a place he's worked for 4 decades. In the last 5 years, he's treated victims from 2 of the worst mass shootings in U.S. history, right here in South Texas.
One in a church, in a small rural community. And the second in an elementary school. In a small rural community.
He knows well the wounds caused by the firepower used in both the carnage in Sutherland Springs and now recently, Uvalde.
The AR-15 is designed to be easy to stay on target. There's multiple wounds per patient. And whenever I say we don't usually see them, because the medical examiner usually sees those patients.
For those patients who do make it into Dr. Stewart's care,
A lot of tissue damage, a lot of destruction. There's a path of the bullet that gets injured, but with high velocity wounds, what happens is there's a zone much larger than the bullet itself that the tissue gets injured or destroyed or is missing.
for the last 8 years, in the wake of the Sandy Hook Elementary School killings, Dr. Stewart has been working alongside fellow physicians as part of the American College of Surgeons to come up with solutions to gun violence.
It doesn't require someone to put aside Second Amendment rights. It doesn't require someone to put aside the view that we have a public health epidemic of firearm-related injury and violence.
But a solution does require an understanding of the problems, and that takes education. Stricter gun laws are often the first target.
This is the standard AR-15. Basically, an AR-15 is a semi-automatic rifle.
Brock Wilkerson owns a place to shoot on the far south side. Guns have been a lifelong passion of his.
So this particular firearm shoots the exact same bullet that this AR does. The only difference is this is a bolt gun and this is a semi-automatic.
What's the difference in functionality there?
This one I have to load the next round before I pull the trigger. So I'm going to eject it, close it, and then pull the trigger. This one I just pull the trigger. I do not have to go through this motion.
You don't have to go through many motions in Texas to buy a gun. You have to be 18 or older to buy a rifle or a shotgun. You have to be 21 or older to buy a handgun. If you're buying a gun from a licensed dealer, like a place to shoot, you must undergo a background check. A customer fills out a form, and the information is run through the National Instant Criminal Background Check system.
Those checks can take just a couple of minutes. On a bad day, they can take 30 to 45 minutes to an hour.
Right now, the background check law does not apply to private sales or transfers. So if someone wanted to purchase a gun and give it to a relative as a gift, they would not have to do a background check on the person who's going to receive the gun.
Texas also has a constitutional carry law, meaning a person 21 or older can openly carry a handgun in public in a holster without a license. There are some people who cannot own any guns in Texas.
And those include felons, certain domestic relations violators, some misdemeanants, and a number of other categories in the state statute.
Outside of those categories, Texas law does not specifically put restrictions on who or how a person can carry a shotgun or a rifle like the AR-15.
Do you think that there are misconceptions about an AR-15?
Absolutely. I can physically show you probably one that would kind of change everybody's mind. It doesn't look near as aggressive as this gun. This gun's been made since the 60s. This is a semi-automatic firearm. Has a magazine on it, just like the rest of the ARs do. It's been made for a long time. The longer magazine, the more round capacity. So this gun could, in all reality, shoot just as many times as that caliber right there. They're the identical functioning guns, but one looks more aggressive than another one.
It's undeniable that AR-style rifles are used again and again in mass shootings. It's a gun that shoots ammunition at up to 3 times the speed of sound. Parents of the victims in Uvalde had to provide DNA so children's bodies could be identified.
2 children whose bodies have been pulverized by bullets fired at them, decapitated, whose flesh had been ripped apart.
In the wake of that shooting, there are again calls for a ban on the AR-15 and weapons like them. From 1994 to 2004, the U.S. had an assault weapons ban put in place under President Clinton. The ban also included magazines that could hold more than 10 rounds.
Most of us, I believe, in the gun industry feel like we're going the wrong direction. The shootings themselves have increased. The access to the firearms really have not. We need to look more at mental health issues. I would argue and say that a lot of the video games of today might have a greater impact on the psychological aspect for kids than a firearm.
Wilkerson adds to that the desensitization to violence in general through entertainment. But on the aspect of mental health, ask those in that profession.
Well, I really want to get away from linking mental health and mental health care to tragedies like we've had recently.
The biggest difficulty is that we're not necessarily all talking about the same things. I think that there's much good that can be done, but the vast majority of school shooters do not have a diagnosable mental illness, and actually they're more likely to be, people who have a mental illness are more likely to be victims rather than the perpetrators of violence.
I think the bottom line is that mental health support services are woefully lacking in the state of Texas, and that usually means funding. We're running about 50th out of 50 states for funding services.
Concerns over a person's mental state and access to guns are combined in red flag laws. 19 states have them. Texas does not. Florida passed a red flag law after 17 people were shot and killed at a high school in Parkland in 2018. It allows a judge to take guns away from someone who is determined to be a threat to themselves or others. It's been used more than 5,000 times in 4 years.
There is the requirement under all state statutes and under the constitutional provisions of due process that within, depending on the statute, 2 to 14 days after the order seizing the weapons, the person from whom the weapons are seized has the right to appear and contest and have a full due process hearing over the allegations.
Now, in 2018, after the shooting at a school in Santa Fe, Texas, Governor Abbott issued a report asking state lawmakers to adopt red flag laws. Months later, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick publicly said that he opposed such a law, and it never happened in Texas.
Now, after yet another mass shooting here at home, changes are being proposed yet again. We're going to take a look at those efforts up next. You're watching KSAT Explains on the News at 6. KSAT Explains continues here on the News at 6 as we examine the struggle to find solutions to gun violence in America by talking to people right here in South Texas.
Now in Washington, D.C., there was a bipartisan plan created after the Robb Elementary School shooting. But Dr. Ronald Stewart, a trauma surgeon at University Hospital, has been working with fellow surgeons on solutions for years. They're looking at shootings as a matter of public health.
We tell ourselves two stories that are conflicting stories that I think are overly simplistic.
For 8 years, Dr. Ronald Stewart has been researching and traveling the country as part of the American College of Surgeons. The group identified two common narratives when it comes to guns.
One I call the firearm freedom story.
In that narrative, guns are seen as personal protection and symbolize freedom through constitutional liberty. Gun control is seen as freedom control. The other story
we call the firearm and violence story.
Firearm and violence. People in this group see guns as harmful. That harm limits their freedom to feel safe, especially in places like churches and schools. And guns are seen as a symbol of violence. The American College of Surgeons used those narratives to find a common one, tapping their own physicians who know guns.
Law enforcement, NRA members, veterans, people who really care about firearms.
That common narrative looks like this: prioritize protecting liberties of the Constitution while acknowledging gun violence is a major preventable cause of death.
It intentionally borrows from those competing stories we tell ourselves.
The American College of Surgeons has 14 recommendations. Some of the most significant: background checks for all gun sales, create gun registration, reclassify certain guns like the AR-15, which could lead to more stringent licensing requirements to own them, require gun safety training for all owners, require safe gun storage, and create red flag laws, while also
trying to understand and address root causes of violence.
In Washington, a bipartisan bill that takes aim at gun violence has now been signed into law. Some of its biggest provisions are enhanced reviews for gun buyers 18 to 21, incentives for states to create their own red flag laws, mental health investment, and boosting school security.
You're talking about truly completely innocent children. And to me, the most kindest, sincere, honest professionals that we have, which are our elementary school teachers. I'm married to one. Telling those stories about the impact on those families, it should move everyone in America, everyone, to do something different.
But will it? It remains unlikely that Texas lawmakers will create any red flag law. Governor Greg Abbott has given no indication that he supports the idea this time around.
Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick has once again said that he opposes it. Now, to check out any KSAT Explains or this very episode, you can scan the QR code that you see right here or go to ksat.com/explains. We'll be right back. It was nice to see all that rain, but guess what? Plenty of sunshine and heat followed.
Yes.
And now there's a little bit of green mixed in with all the brown on the ground.
There you go.
Baby steps. Better than nothing. Of course, we could use more showers. Odds are pretty slim for us locally. I will point out where we are likely to get heavy rain in the days ahead in just a moment. Let's start with our temperature trend. Mid-90s next couple of days, and then right near the century mark again by the end of the weekend and into early next week. Monday, 4th of July, right up near 100. You look at our month, 2 days, yesterday and today, we actually had our temperature a little below average. The rest of it has been well above average, and we're still on track to have the hottest or the second hottest June on record. I do think it's likely that we'll have the hottest June on record here in San Antonio. Here's that broad area of moisture. Basically, it's a big swirl of unorganized showers and thunderstorms over the western Gulf of Mexico, just off the Texas coastline. And some showers did come on shore earlier today. They didn't make it very far inland. But this activity is going to be drifting closer to the Texas coast over the next couple of days. Still has a 40% chance of development, meaning becoming a little more organized, and then potentially tropical depression. So maybe a few wind gusts around 40 miles per hour with it if it becomes organized. Bottom line, doesn't matter if it has a fancy title or not, the impact's going to be the same. Some areas of heavy rain, particularly along the Gulf Coast and closer to Houston. Spaghetti plots all over the place. That's what you'd expect right now. There's no really well-defined center of circulation, and so it's hard for the guidance to really grasp what the potential is with this system. But right now, odds still favor the rainfall staying east of San Antonio, maybe making it to Gonzales, Cuero, Goliad, and then down to Corpus Christi, but especially along the Gulf coastline through Saturday. I mean, we could have up to 5 inches of rain outside of Matagorda Bay, between Matagorda Bay and Galveston. So there's going to be some heavy rain with it. I just think, unfortunately, it's going to be out of our area. 96 right now, dew point of 58, so the humidity not playing a role out there at the moment. Most of us well into the 90s. Del Rio, some rain cooled air. A few showers are dissipating now around Del Rio. So Del Rio at 81, that's the exception. Meanwhile, New Braunfels 97, Bandera 94, and 93 in Helotes. Tomorrow, we start the day at 73 degrees, then make it into the mid-90s again. About 94 for the high temperature at 5 p.m. That off chance, 20% chance. So a few random, highly isolated brief afternoon showers are possible the next few afternoons. Otherwise, a lot of sunshine, well into the 90s, and then getting back near 100 by the end of the weekend. There's that minimal 20% chance every afternoon through Saturday. Don't go canceling any outdoor plans. Highly isolated and brief. Again, most of the action will be along the Gulf coastline periodically through Saturday, and then even along the Gulf Coast, clearing out for Sunday and even on into the 4th of July.
Thank you, Adam.
In case you missed it, coming up next. Here's today's ICYMI.
It is Wednesday, June 29th.
The death toll following Tuesday's migrant tragedy rose to 53. So far, 34 people have been identified. The Precinct 1 County Commissioner told us they have contacted the Mexican, Guatemalan, Honduran, and El Salvadoran consulates to help identify the bodies, as well as contact families in their home country. Federal investigators took 3 suspects into custody in connection with this case. So far, 2 are facing charges.
Around 1 p.m., 2 cars off of Cinco de Mayo Road near Highway 90 in Montgomery were involved in a shooting. Sheriff Javier Salazar is unsure if the cars exchanged gunfire or if multiple suspects shot at one vehicle. He adds a 40 to 50-year-old man was hit at least once by gunfire. His car then rolled about 100 yards into brush.
Left their vehicle, went into after the victim's vehicle on foot, fired several other shots. Indicates they wanted him dead pretty badly, and the victim died there on scene.
Governor Greg Abbott calling Monday's discovery in San Antonio horrific and a tragedy, which is why he's in Eagle Pass today.
Texas is going to add additional truck checkpoints. DPS will create and implement a checkpoint strategy beginning immediately.
CVS Pharmacy says it is removing limits on purchasing emergency contraceptives. CVS implemented a limitation due to the increase in demand for emergency contraceptives after the Supreme Court overruled Roe v. Wade. Purchase limits are expected to be removed from all locations as well as their website within 24 hours.
We've got some breaking news related to that migrant tragedy. Now 53 people have died. A 4th person has now been arrested. That suspect has been identified as Christian Martinez.
Yeah, he was actually arrested in Palestine on 1 count of conspiracy to transport resulting in death. Again, another suspect has been arrested. That brings 4. This one is charged with smuggling, and of course we'll continue to follow the story and have much more on the Night Beat at 10.
Tomorrow morning, low to mid 70s for temperatures to start the day. By the afternoon, well into the 90s. I think most of us in the mid 90s, but century mark as you get along the Rio Grande, about 100 degrees. But locally around town, about 95, 94 for the high. Very similar through Saturday. Stray afternoon pop-up storms, but keep your outdoor plans.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you for watching the news at 6.
See you on the Night Beat at 10.